In this video, I don't have a lot to share with you about things that are going on in my company. So I thought it would be cool to share with you my $100 million plan and explain to you why I have that goal, explain to you how I plan to achieve that goal so that you can understand why I'm doing it, how people make this type of money, why it's really not that crazy in the first place, and you might learn a different perspective on business and on money after watching this video. Now, I just want to kind of preface this video by saying that $100 million is not actually that much money. And the reason why is because there's so much money out there. And once you understand how much money is actually out there, you will realize that you probably are undershooting on your goals and that much more is possible for you than you could ever imagine. It wasn't until I really started looking at what billionaires were doing, I really started looking at business from a different perspective. And that perspective was from looking at it from a business perspective versus a personal perspective. Now, making $1 million a year is a significant amount of money when it is compared to how it will change your lifestyle. If you go from making no money to 7 figures a year, you are going to have the most dramatic change in your lifestyle than at any point in your life ever. It will never, ever become more of a dramatic change because you will go from having no money to being rich. You'll have cars, you could buy anything you want, you have time, you have all of these things that you never had when you didn't have money. I've already achieved that. And that lifestyle that I have now is not going to change if I make $100 million more money. It's just not going to change. I'm not going to go buy fancy cars. I'm probably not going to buy a helicopter or anything like that. Even if I did buy a helicopter, I don't think it would change my life that much. So the money is not going to change my life in a meaningful way. However, the reason why I'm pursuing the goal is because, number one, business is a sport that I play. I like to play the game. I like to learn things. I like to develop myself. I like to grow. I like challenges. I like to solve complex problems. And the bigger the problem, making $100 million, the more value it is for other people, because money is a exchange of value. If you pay me money, I have to give you something. And we're basically making an agreement that what I'm giving you, you would rather have that than the money in your pocket. You would rather give me your money and take the value that I'm creating for you. So when it comes to making $100 million, I'm creating $100 million or more worth of value for other people. And I think it's pretty cool to build things on the internet that deliver value to other people in a way where I solve complex problems for them. It's a game. I like to play it. I think it's fun for me. It's something that I like to do with my life. It's not really necessarily about the money. The money is just a scoreboard for value for me. So looking at money from the perspective of your lifestyle, $1 million is a lot of money. It's quite significant. Looking at $1 million from the perspective of how large a business can be, it basically isn't a business. I know people who have no employees, no staff members. They don't have any organization at all, and they make $1 million a year freelancing. That's not a business. That's consulting. So if you can make that much money doing consulting and not really having a business, then $1 million is not really significant in terms of how big a business can be. If you just look at the scale, which is you could be making $0 with your business, or you could be making what Amazon makes, which is $3 trillion, what they're worth, then $1 million on that scale is 300 million times smaller than Amazon. Really let that sink in. Someone on Earth who is a different person than you was born on Earth and built a business that is 300 million times bigger than what most people would consider to be a pretty significant business. That really changed my perspective on how large a business can be, how big of a business I might be able to build. Is it really possible that someone is 300 million times better than me at business? Probably not. So I'm thinking, well, I could probably build a larger business then. Maybe I'm just not really thinking about this the right way. And then I actually looked up the definition of a small business. And that was when things really sunk in and really changed for me and my perspective of how large a business can be, which is that a small business is a business that's worth or making less than $50 million. So $1 million business per year is 50 times smaller than the largest small business. And so there's small, medium, large, there's public companies. It just goes, the the scale is so large that $1 million on that scale, it basically is at zero. You wouldn't even notice it. It'd be so close to zero that it's pretty much not even on the scale. So once I started realizing that, I thought, maybe I am really not thinking about this the right way. Maybe I should actually be trying to create a much larger company. Maybe it's easier. Obviously, lots of people do it because the scale exists. Other businesses exist. There's tons of public companies. Public companies, to be a public company, you need to be making hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And there's hundreds, thousands of them. So why couldn't I start a business that was something like that? So that was kind of what led me down this path. And I started really understanding and trying to study basically business in a different way, which is I actually started looking up, what did Elon Musk do? What was his first business? Did he sell it? What was that business? What industry was it in? How did he start the business? Was it funded? Did he get investors? Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, like Mark Zuckerberg, all these people, I just started looking into how they all did. And pretty much I looked at the top 100 richest people in the world. And what I found was overwhelmingly that pretty much all of them had sold some tech company or they were heavily involved in real estate. And those are pretty much the two ways that you really build a net worth to massive amounts of money. Sometimes people did it through stocks, like Warren Buffett famously has done it through stocks, but Warren Buffett is also very good at business. So it all kind of came down to these people started a business, made it extremely valuable. A lot of them sold that business. When you sell a business, you get a multiple, which I'll explain to you what that means in a minute. Basically means that if you make $1 million a year, you might be able to sell it for 10 million, and then you cash out on 10 times what you're actually making. And then you have that lump sum of cash, you can invest it, and you can start compounding your net worth a lot faster. A lot of people do that, and then they get into real estate, and they just start compounding all of this stuff, and they really get ahead. But a lot of times people who are ultra rich, they have a huge windfall event where they sell a company, they sell a property, they sell something for much more than what they're earning from it. And then they use that cash to buy other stuff, and it just compounds like crazy. So that's kind of how people actually make that level of money. It's almost always done through that way. So I started thinking about, let me pull up my little presentation here. How can I do this myself? And so I came up with this plan. And one of the first things you need to understand is that if you want this plan to work for you, or anyone wants to make a lot more money, you need to understand this graph right here. I actually don't think a lot of people really understand this graph. I know you're looking at it and you're thinking, Ross, that is so simple. We're looking at it. It says the more skill you have over time, the more income you make. Everyone would look at this and say, yeah, that makes sense. People do not live their life this way. People buy online coaching programs, they buy online courses, and they try to implement a system as fast as they possibly can, and they don't focus on developing the skills that the programs and educational materials teach them. It's all about the skills. It's about mastery of skills. It's not about learning a sales call script. It's not about learning how to do social media marketing. It's about being the fucking best person at closing deals on the phone on earth. It's about being the best social media marketer. It's about being the best advertiser. It is about increasing your skill. If you learn a skill and you never increase it and it's just hanging out down here, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're just not. And over time, you will make slightly more income probably from that skill level that you're at. But really, the income is made by increasing the depth of your skill. That is the big lesson that I just wish new entrepreneurs would understand, and that it takes time to learn skills and accumulate income. Because you can't just imagine if I taught you how to ride a bike and then you rode the bike for like 30 minutes and then you're like, when can I compete in the triathlon? I need to finish the triathlon. I need to get to that thing. And you can't even really ride a bike yet. It's probably going to take you 3 months to really learn how to ride a bike successfully and be able to go fast on that bike comfortably. And then you're going to be able to compete in the triathlon, and maybe then you can actually get the goal that you're after. A lot of people want to go straight to the goal and they want to skip all the skill development. It is the wrong goal. Trying to make income is the wrong goal. You need to focus on developing skills. Developing skills takes patience. Patience and skill creates a massive amount of income. That is the equation you need to understand. This is what it looked like for me. I'm 32 years old. I got started in business. I mean, really started in business. Like when I really started trying to do an online business, I was probably about 21 years old. So 11 years. I had no skills. I was a pothead. My parents didn't have any money. They didn't really teach me a whole lot of skills specifically on anything. And I didn't really do good in high school. I pretty much failed out of high school at a 1.5 GPA, which if you're in the United States, I don't even really know how I graduated. I skipped like 100 days in my senior year. I didn't go to college, and I was pretty much just drinking and smoking pot with my friends the whole time. And so I didn't have any skills. I didn't really have anything going for me. And what I did was I basically got really depressed after everyone went to college and I didn't. And I was working at a pizza shop. And then what happened was I started going to the gym. And I really liked going to the gym. I got in great shape. And I decided that my life's purpose was that I was going to be a personal trainer. I was going to start helping people with their health. So I learned a skill. I learned how to diet, how to work out. That skill put me in a position where I was able to become a certified personal trainer and I could start working in a gym. I worked in a gym and I made $10 an hour. And then what happened with that was that they told me that I needed to learn how to sell. I needed to walk around the gym, get people to take their headphones out of their ears. I needed to help them with their weights, put their weights away, clean up after them, start conversations, and get these people to allow me to give them a free personal training session. I hated this. The whole time I was in school for personal training, I just thought, I want to help people. I just want to coach people. I just want to get them to do all this stuff. And I was terrible at sales. I didn't know how to sell. Even when I got clients in the gym, luckily, I couldn't even get them to implement the trainings that I had for them. They would come in with it. I remember this specifically. Chocolate, like a coffee with like chocolate all on the inside of it, with whipped cream and stuff, for someone who was trying to lose weight. My clients would come into the gym drinking that. And I would tell them, you're not following your diet. And I didn't understand how to get through to them and how to get them to change. All of this, to me, came down to I don't understand psychology and I don't understand sales. I do not know how to coach someone to get them to do what I want them to do. And I don't know how to start conversations with people that get them to want to buy my services. So what ended up happening was I was a failure pretty much at personal training. I didn't sign that many clients at the gym. I struggled for a long time. I had to drive and commute for a very long time, and I got paid $10 an hour. And I had to wear a stupid t-shirt, and I was embarrassed about it, and I just really hated working in the gym. And I thought, I am going to try to start doing this online. I tried a lot of different businesses during that time that didn't work out, but I eventually came to the conclusion that if I don't learn how to sell, and if I don't learn psychology, I will not be able to do this. I won't be able to do this. I'm going to have to go get a job at a pizza shop again. And so what ended up happening was that opportunity as a trainer, once I learned sales and everything like that, the best trainers that I knew, even today, are making max six figures. They're making $100,000, $200,000 a year. I'm sure there's some celebrity trainers that maybe make seven figures, but we're talking about the top of the top of the top. Probably most people are not going to become that. So this was my first opportunity. I got into a six-figure opportunity. Eventually, I did learn sales. I did learn psychology. I did learn a lot of stuff. I studied for about 2 to 3 years, and I eventually started a business that actually did work. So in between this time, there was like 10 to 15 other horribly failed businesses that I just had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to start online businesses. And then what happened was I got into an opportunity where the thing that really changed for me was that I realized that all the businesses that I was starting based on what I wanted to sell people. So a Chinese herbalism course. I wanted to teach people how to do handstands. I wanted to teach all these random things that I was passionate about. And it turns out nobody cared about any of that stuff. And so nobody bought anything from me. Then I switched my strategy and I thought, why don't I just go ask a bunch of entrepreneurs what their problems are? Pretty much everybody told me that their problems were that they wanted to grow on Instagram. This was like 7 or 8 years ago when Instagram was kind of newish and people were really interested in growing on the platform, and people were doing following and unfollowing, and there's all that Instagram automation going on. And everyone was trying to grow their personal brand on Instagram. And so I would go around to entrepreneurs and say, hey, if I could grow your Instagram account to X level in 3 months, would you buy that from me? And they're pretty much like, yeah, I would be super interested in that. So I said, okay, I got all this market feedback, and I went back to my house and I said, I'm going to learn Instagram. So I created a Instagram account. I created several different ones. I created all sorts of different types of content. I tested all sorts of different ideas. I listened to every podcast. I joined every Telegram group. I looked at forums, watched YouTube videos. I went crazy on this thing, and I just absorbed everything that I possibly could about Instagram. And what I learned in that process was marketing. I learned how to market on social media. This opportunity was quite successful for me. I actually grew to 7 figures a year. This is my first, I didn't earn 6 figures when I was a trainer. This is the opportunity. 7 figures with the agency is what I actually did. Probably the max that agency really could ever be is 8 figures. But for me, it was 7 figures. What ended up happening was I went from no skills to learning how to coach, to learning sales and psychology, to learning marketing, sales, psychology, coaching, how to deliver a service. I learned how to productize. I learned how to hire. I learned a little bit more about finance. I learned how to pay taxes. I learned all sorts of different stuff. And this worked out really well for me. And then what ended up happening was, as the agency grew, it became less profitable, and I didn't like delivering services that were done for you services to people. And so I thought about what will happen if Instagram goes down? What will happen if Instagram just fails as a platform? My whole agency will fail. I can't have my $1 million agency reliant on like Instagram, you know? And so I thought I need to get into a different opportunity. So I parlayed my skills in this into a coaching business. I went back and I created a coaching business to coach trainers on the things that I failed at. And now I just coach all coaches, all trainers, all different types of people on business. And I learned several different business models now. I've learned how to do an agency. I've learned how to be a trainer. I've learned how to be a coach. I've learned how to build products, how to build courses, how to build education, how to set up softwares. I've learned how to do automations, how to hire people, how to do finances, how to do all sorts of different stuff. And I've learned how to leverage my time through building a team and through building different types of offers and stuff like that. And so this opportunity, this coaching opportunity, the max is probably 8 figures. I don't think I will be able to grow the coaching business to more than 8 figures. It's possible that it could be worth $100 million if I really, really seriously maxed it out, like seriously maxed it out. But it's probably an 8-figure opportunity. And we're doing about $7 to $8 million a year right now. I'll show you how that actually ends up playing out in terms of what is that actually worth, because a lot of people on the internet, they just say, I'm making X amount of dollars, and then they don't make any profit. But I'll talk to you about that. So what I've done with this coaching business is this is my most successful business so far. And we're nearing 8 figures a year. And what's happened with that is I realized a couple years ago, after studying all of these billionaires, that if I wanted to ever have $1 billion or $100 million or something like that, that it actually the game that I'm playing, coaching, is not possible. Like, it is not possible. I would have to be the #1 coaching business pretty much ever created on earth, which, to be honest with you, I would rather be a shitty company that's worth $1 billion than the #1 company on earth that ever existed. I mean, that is a really hard thing to achieve. So I thought, well, I'm kind of in a smaller opportunity. And now, again, smaller is relative. I know you probably don't think that this is small, but to me, this is small when I look at how many billion-dollar companies there are. And I thought, well, what are all these billionaires doing? Pretty much they're all in the software. They're all doing software, or they're all doing data, or they're all doing like tech pretty much. And software is a $100 million or multi-billion dollar opportunity. So what I've gone from now is I'm still running my coaching company, but I've also started a software company. And these two things are what's going to create $100 million. Let me show you how that's done. Understanding value. So we have two companies, Smart Coach, which is my coaching company, and MemberUp, which is my software company. Coaching companies, so basically you can sell a business. You can start a business. If the business is good and it meets certain criteria, you're able to sell that business. There are people that would want to buy it. Now, how much you're able to sell the business for depends on a couple of different things. Basically, when you sell a company, it's called a multiple. You make a multiple. So it's like, if I make $100,000 a year in my business, I might be able to sell it for 4 to 5 times that and get $400,000 to $500,000 for the business. And the reason for that is just because that's how businesses are pretty much sold. They're sold for like a multiple on top of the value that they're earning every year. So there's like an equation for it, and every different industry has different equations. And pretty much with a coaching business, you can get a 4 to 5 times multiple. So 4 to 5 times what you're making on EBITDA. EBITDA is basically profit. I'm just going to oversimplify it. That's pretty much what it is. So let's say that my coaching company makes $5 million a year in profit, which by the end of this year will probably be there. I'll be able to sell my coaching company for $20 to $25 million. And I will get a lump sum of cash. Probably, that's usually how a lot of deals go down, where I'm able to, make the money every year and then sell it for a lump sum of cash. And then I'll have $20 to $25 million. That's what a lot of really wealthy people do. They build a company. They usually would be making $5 million a year, and then they decide to sell it, and then boom, they get $20 to $25 million in a lump sum cash. Then they start buying other companies. They start buying stocks, real estate, and they start expanding. And then now they're compounding $25 million worth of wealth. And when you do that, it's really easy to get to $100 million because you only need to 4 times your money. And I'm 32 years old. So to think if I had $25 million right now that I'm not going to 4 times my money in my lifetime is ridiculous. I could just put it in the stock market in probably 10 to 15 years. It would be worth that much. So that's Smart Coach. I'm probably not going to sell Smart Coach. That's not on my plans right now. But in terms of what these assets will be worth, you can see that probably next year it would be worth around this much. And then MemberUp. So I started Smart Coach. The unique thing about Smart Coach is that it is a cash flow company. So these companies don't sell for a lot of money in terms of the multiple compared to a software company sells for 10 to 20 times on a multiple, because it's more of a cash flow company. Every month we make hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit that just the company just throws off, and we can take that money, we can invest it into other companies, we can invest it into stocks, we can buy real estate with it, whatever. And so with MemberUp, we took a bunch of money from Smart Coach and we invested it into MemberUp. And we invested it into a larger opportunity that has a larger reward. What's interesting about software and why so many billionaires have been created from software, or 100 millionaires, is because software is very unique in the fact that it sells at an extremely high multiple, very high multiple. So it will sell for 10 to 20 times regularly. This is like average, 10 to 20 times ARR, annual recurring revenue. So while Smart Coach will only sell 4 to 5 times based on its profit, and in order to make this amount of profit, we would probably need to make around $10 to $12 million per year just to make this profit. MemberUp can make $5 million a year in revenue, not profit, and it can basically not even be profitable, and it could still sell for $50 to $100 million, which is significantly more. It's about 4 to 5 times more than what Smart Coach would be able to sell. And we're talking about Smart Coach is a profitable company. MemberUp doesn't even have to be a profitable company. Lots of tech companies sell when they're not profitable, and they sell for this type of multiple. Sometimes they sell for even higher depending on the market, the conditions, what company is acquiring them, how strong of a company it is. And so this could actually sell for even much more than this potentially. But this is what I would say the average is. It would sell for at least $50 million at this level. And as you can see, $5 million a year, I mean, we're making $7 to $8 million a year with Smart Coach. I know how to build a company to $5 million a year. That's no problem. And so when you look at it like this, even just looking at this is probably about $100 million. And that is not even really, we're not even really into any zone for me that feels like a real significant challenge. Growing Member up to $50 million a year would be a different thing. Growing it to $50 million a year and having it be worth $500 to $1 billion is really pretty much the goal that we actually have for it. I absolutely think that it can be done. And $50 million a year is not that much money when you think that $50 million a year is actually $1 billion exit potentially. That's how you get from a small amount of money, like even $50 million, to being worth $1 billion. That's how these things happen. It's because they happen from a multiple. So it's not that you're making $1 billion a year. That would be crazy to make $1 billion a year. That would be a lot of money. That would be insane. But it's because you only need to make $50 million a year to be almost worth $1 billion. That's how these things happen, and that's how wealth is created, and that's how more money is created quickly. Now, let me explain to you why these things are not worth the same. Why would a company that's profitable, $5 million a year, be worth less than a tech company that is not profitable that's making $5 million a year in revenue? Well, the reason is because of the two different models for growth. Let me explain this to you. Smart Coach, and if you have a coaching company, you're going to learn something here. Smart Coach uses I would call it a force model. It's marketing and sales. The more marketing and ads you run, the more sales you will make. The more sales you will make, the more money you can put back into marketing and ads, which creates more sales, which creates more marketing and ads, which creates more sales. This is the feedback loop that Smart Coach runs on. If we stop running marketing and ads, we will lose sales and the company will fail. It is that simple. And so when you're a coaching company, a service company, an agency, whatever it is, you're selling a course, you're selling a membership, you're selling a subscription, the more force that you put into marketing and ads, the more money you are going to make. A lot of people think that their business is going to start growing itself or something like that. You have to force it to grow hard. This thing is not going to grow itself. It's a different type of model. Now, in some situations, from very rare businesses and some things like that, yes, like this can maybe be a little bit different, but we're talking like 99.99% of the time. This is what it is. It's more content, more ads, more marketing, more social media channels, more exposure, more awareness, more everything. And in order to perpetuate that, you need to spend more and more and more and more and more and more on it. The more money you spend, the more sales you make, and it just goes round and round and round like this. This thing is not automatic. You have to do it manually, and that's why I call it a force model. Now, let me introduce you to a different type of thinking. I would call this a power model, and it is a flywheel. The largest, best companies on earth, all billion-dollar companies, have a flywheel involved in them on some level, and it is a different way of growing. It is a way of growing that requires no force. It requires power. It is designed to grow itself perpetually, exponentially. It feeds into itself automatically without anyone doing anything because of the way that it's structured. Amazon is one of the greatest flywheels of all time. Let me explain to you how it works. Basically, a flywheel is a situation where the more users and customers there are on a platform or using a product, the better the product becomes. That is like the core of a flywheel. So a lot of times in coaching companies, the more clients that a coaching company has, the more clients that an agency has, the more people that are in the course, the worse the experience is. It's not always true. You want to definitely, if you're building a coaching company, try to fix that. Like in our company, I think that we've pretty much fixed that. So everyone gets assigned their own coach. So we get an infinite number of coaches. Everyone has the same experience. But generally speaking, in most coaching companies that haven't solved that, the more clients an agency has, the less time they're going to have for you, the worse service they're going to have, the less profit they're going to make. It just, everything, the more it gets, the worse it gets. With flywheels, it's different. The more that happens, the better it is. the less expensive everything is, the better the customer service becomes, the better the product comes because more people are using it. Imagine if there was imagine if there's only 10 people who had cell phones. Not a great experience. Then imagine 1 million people who have cell phones. Much better experience, right? Or imagine if there's only 20 people on Facebook. Not a good experience. Now imagine if there's 1 billion people on Facebook. Much better experience. The more people, the better, because there's more connections, more interesting things, more news, more content. It makes it better. So all tech companies have a flywheel. Amazon's flywheel looks like this. Amazon has sellers, people who sell stuff on Amazon. When there are sellers, there is more selection. There's more products, there's different types of products, there's different brands, there's different SKUs. And the more selection there is, the better the customer experience. Because customers don't want to go on Amazon and only find one product in one product category. They don't want to find one type of water on Amazon. They want to get 50 different water brands that they can choose from. So when there's more selection, when there's more sellers, there's more selection, which makes a better customer experience. When there's a better customer experience, more people go to Amazon because they go there more often and they tell their friends about it. The more traffic and attention that Amazon has, the more it attracts sellers to the platform who want to sell to those people, which creates more selection, which creates a better experience, which creates more traffic, which creates more sellers, and it just happens automatically. And then what else happens on Amazon is really cool. The more selection there is and the more sellers there are and the better the experience, the lower the cost structure is for Amazon. And so it drives the prices down and Amazon becomes more and more efficient. And so lower prices on Amazon attracts more customers because customers can get the cheapest, best experience possible. And then that attracts more traffic and more sellers and more selection. So this thing is the most powerful thing ever. It's so powerful. And it does it all by itself. No one actually has to manually do this. Whereas in a coaching business in our company, there's nothing wrong with it, but it must be done manually. And so it's not nearly as powerful as a business that can do something like this. Now with MemberUp, we have a flywheel, just like Amazon does, just like Facebook does, just like Instagram does, just like all these other tech companies. Actually, it's a very similar flywheel to Facebook. And this is how it works. If a person gets on MemberUp, and if you don't know what MemberUp is, let me just explain this real quick. MemberUp is a platform for creators, people who sell online courses, coaching, things like that, and subscriptions. And you can get on there. It allows you to have a community on there with a feed, events. It allows you to have chat. You could use payments, and you can host your courses on there. It's a very simple platform. It's an all-in-one platform where you can host all of your stuff on there and you can deliver your services and products and coaching and things like that to your customers and your clients. And so what ends up happening is people come on MemberUp and they create a community, very similar to like someone gets on Facebook and they create a Facebook group. Now, this community, let's say, grows to 1,000 users in that community. If it does that, then what is likely to happen is 1% of those people are going to like MemberUp, they're going to like the platform, they're going to like the experience they have on there, and they're going to get curious, and they're going to want to create their own community on MemberUp. And then what ends up happening is that one community that had 1,000 members in it is now going to create 10 more communities. And if any of those grow to 1,000 members, they will create 10 more communities, and there will be more members. So what happens is someone gets on MemberUp, and they're a creator or they're selling some kind of product, and they actually market MemberUp. So they get on there, and by marketing their product, their services, their community, they obviously want people to join their community. They're now onboarding thousands of people onto MemberUp. And when they onboard thousands of people onto MemberUp, those people are now aware of MemberUp. They're using it, they like it, they are downloading it, they are using the community, and they get the idea that maybe they want to start a community. And so actually Facebook, it's a very similar thing. 1% of users on Facebook have created a Facebook community. And so with MemberUp, it's about the same. 1% of people are likely to create a community if they are a member first of a community. And what happens is this thing just goes round and round and round and round. So in the beginning, what ends up happening is MemberUp's growth is very slow. We invested probably $1 million building the product. And that's why a lot of people can't get into software in the first place, is because the barrier of entry is very high. But the long-term growth and payoff of a company like that is much higher than a coaching company. Whereas a coaching company, the barrier of entry is very low. So lots of people can start it. So actually the most reward for people is usually right in the beginning of a coaching company. They start it, they get quick income, and most people don't last, they're not able to grow. But because there's so many people that can start it very easily, it appears like there's a lot of competition because so many people, even if they don't have any skills, they don't have any talent, they don't really know what they're doing, they can start a coaching business. So online, it seems like everyone's starting coaching businesses when actually most of those coaching businesses are not successful and there actually isn't that much competition. Whereas with a software company, you don't really hear that many people starting a software company. And the reason for that is because the barrier of entry is super high, the risk is super high, and you really have to know what you're doing. You have to be very skilled. And so this is the flywheel that we have at MemberUp. We have to get a certain amount of people onto the platform first through force model marketing to get enough members and communities on the platform so that this thing starts growing itself and eventually just takes off. Now, with Amazon's model and with MemberUp's model, it ends up looking like this. The results over time become exponential because the flywheel grows, and the more people that are on the platform, the more people that are on the platform. It's like population. This isn't the best example because I think population is in decline right now, but obviously if there's 1 billion people on Earth, imagine the population growth exponentially from all of those people having kids versus a couple hundred people having kids, right? It's going to go very slow in the beginning and then it's going to blow up over time. That's what MemberUp does. Smart Coach usually looks a little bit more like this, where it's like you get quick results and then results plateau eventually at a certain point. Whereas MemberUp doesn't really, there's no ceiling. It can just pretty much infinitely grow and it can infinitely become more valuable over time. So I know that was a mouthful, but that is how I plan to make $100 million. To be honest with you, I think we'll probably make a lot more money than that with even just these two companies. And that's just in the next 3 to 5 years. What happens after that for me is something that I'm not really sure about. I don't know what I'll do with all that money. I'm definitely going to make videos about it. I will share along the journey and I will share updates about how this plan actually unfolds. I personally think it's going to be really cool to come back to this video 3 to 5 years from now when all of this stuff happens. And I think a lot of people are going to want to come back and see what I was thinking about these things because not a lot of people actually talk about this stuff. So this is how ultra wealthy people make their money. They move, they create companies, they invest that money into larger and larger opportunities. Right now, MemberUp is the largest opportunity for me. And that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions on this in the comments, if you want me to talk about anything else, if you got any other ideas, and we'll talk soon.